It's just past 7:30 in India, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Global. With me today will be Nick Harper from Washington, D.C. And together we'll present to you DD India Global. Up first, a look at the headlines. Foreigners and dual nationals leave Gaza as Rafah Crossing opens for the second consecutive day. Death toll in the conflict crosses 9,000.
So we finally got the chance to almost leave Gaza. This is my 5th attempt to leave. We evacuated our house about 19 days ago.
UK Prime Minister Sunak and United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres agree on the need to scale up humanitarian aid to Gaza. Indian Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman addresses the 200th celebration of arrival of Indo-Origin Tamils in Sri Lanka. As the Israel-Gaza conflict enters day 27 today, Israeli tanks and troops pressed towards Gaza City on Thursday, but met with fierce resistance from Hamas militants who used mortars and hit-and-run attacks from tunnels. Israeli military released footage of ground operations in Gaza on Thursday, showing tanks and soldiers proceeding into the Gaza Strip, as well as targets being hit by airstrikes. Israel has sent its forces into Hamas-controlled Gaza following weeks of air and artillery bombardments in retaliation to the deadly attack by Hamas on October the 7th. Israeli authorities say Hamas terrorists killed at least 1,400 people and took at least 242 people as hostages.
So
far, 242 families of 242 hostages have been notified. I repeat, 242 hostages. We are committed to the national task to return them all home. The battle is ongoing as we have planned. In each battle we have the upper hand, and that's how we move forward.
More updates from the Israel-Hamas war. The Rafah Crossing was opened for limited evacuations for a second day today under a Qatar-brokered deal between Israel, Egypt, Hamas and the United States. My colleague Nick Harper is in Washington, D.C., gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Nick, over to you.
Thanks, Tanvi. Well, another Israeli airstrike has hit the Jabalia refugee camp in Gaza, causing more casualties. The fresh strike has displaced thousands of Gazans who were seeking shelter in the UNRWA-sponsored school. An earlier attack on the Jabalia camp on Wednesday killed at least 50 people and injured hundreds more. The conflict has so far killed at least 9,000 in Gaza, including more than 3,700 children. Well, DD India's correspondent Sarah Coates joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, what more do we know about the people who have managed to leave Gaza today via the Rafah Crossing?
Hello there, Nick. Well, look, we know these people have been lining up there at that border crossing for around a month now after receiving notifications at the beginning of this conflict from their respective embassies telling them to go there and just wait to get out. It's been certainly a very long wait, and it seems as though 100 people, 100 foreign nationals have actually made their way through the Rafah Crossing in just the last hour or so. There was a new list of people published earlier this morning. There are around 400 or 500 names on that list. A lot of Americans actually on this list after many didn't make it through that crossing yesterday. Now, there's been, Nick, a lot of anger, a lot of frustration and also a lot of confusion down at this border crossing. Many people have been wondering why some names are on it and why others are not. So look, it's certainly causing a lot of tension. We have heard from the Egyptian Foreign Ministry. It put out a statement a little while ago to say it is preparing to evacuate around 7,000 citizens from around 60 different countries. And look, according to border officials on both the Gaza side and the Egyptian side, this will happen in stages and is expected to take around a week or potentially a little bit longer. But look, it's certainly a very worrying time for these families who've been waiting down at that crossing. A lot of them are running out of food, they're running out of water, and a lot of them have small children to take care of.
And Sarah, so we have seen some evacuations, a limited number so far. We're likely to see many more. But of course, further up the Gaza Strip, those airstrikes are continuing and the death toll is rising. What have the authorities in Gaza had to say?
Yeah, that's right. Well, look, we did hear from the Palestinian Health Ministry a short while ago. It came out to say that the main generator from the Indonesian hospital, which is one of the largest hospitals operating in the Gaza Strip, that generator rather, has now completely run out of fuel. It's out of action. They're now relying on a smaller generator. But look, they have had to switch off a number of vital things, such as mortuary refrigerators, which of course hold dead bodies. Also air conditioning, also oxygen tanks, and of course lights. Now, the other hospital, the biggest hospital in the Gaza Strip, the Al-Shifa Hospital, it has literally hours left to go. That's according to Palestinian health authorities. And look, we do have some unconfirmed, Nick, reports coming in just in the last couple of minutes that Al-Shifa Hospital has actually been targeted. We don't know whether it's been by Hamas militants or Israeli forces. We do understand it's been hit by machine gun fire. But look, I think in saying all of this, Nick, it is very important to point out that it has been very well documented that Hamas uses these sort of civilian targets, civilian infrastructure, to hide behind. The Israeli forces, Israeli government came out just a few days ago to show what it says is evidence that Hamas has a huge military base in these network of tunnels it has, which it says is right underneath Al-Shifa Hospital. So look, if indeed this latest report of this attack on Al-Shifa Hospital is correct, and it is found to be Israel, then Israel is likely to come out and say it was targeting Hamas militants.
Thank you, Sarah. That was Sarah Coates reporting live for us from Tel Aviv. Well, more relief trucks are passing through the Rafah border crossing from Egypt into Gaza. Although Israel does not directly control the Rafah crossing, it monitors all activity in southern Gaza from Karine Shalom military base and other surveillance. Israel has also asked foreign countries to send ships with medical assistance on board for the treatment of the injured and to allow them safe passage to Egypt via Al Arish port. Israeli tanks have been deployed near the Israel-Lebanese border as the Israel-Hamas conflict rages on. The Israeli army said that its forces were on high alert as cross-border fire continued throughout that border crossing. Lebanon's Hezbollah said that it destroyed an Israeli drone over South Lebanon with a surface-to-air missile, an account that's been disputed by Israel's military, which confirms the missile was launched, but said its aircraft suffered no damage. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Israel again, his second visit in less than a month. He plans to meet Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, on Friday to voice solidarity, but also to reassert the need to minimize Palestinian civilian casualties. Blinken will also stop in Jordan, where he'll underscore the importance of protecting civilian lives and will pursue talks led by Egypt and Qatar on securing the release of all hostages currently still being held by Hamas. Well, back here in the United States, the House of Representatives is planning a vote on a bill providing $14.3 billion in aid to Israel. The Republicans unveiled the bill on Monday. Democrats, though, have objected to cutting money for the Internal Revenue Service, saying it'll increase the country's budget deficit by cutting back on tax collection. The bill will face its first test of support in a procedural vote. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres have agreed the need to scale up the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The leaders discussed the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza and agreed on the importance of urgently scaling up the delivery of life-saving humanitarian aid. Well, India, along with 27 other countries and the European Union, have signed a declaration at a meeting in the UK pledging to work together to assess the risks associated with artificial intelligence. The UK government on Wednesday issued the Bletchley Declaration and discussed the warnings about the threats presented by artificial intelligence systems. The declaration also noted the importance of AI systems in daily routine like employment, education, health, and added that their use is likely to see an ascent. During day 2 of the summit, they're aiming to discuss the global priority for artificial intelligence over the next 5 years. DD India's Julia Chapman sent us this report from Bletchley Park.
The declaration really underscoring this intention by all these countries to continue working together when it comes to better understanding the impacts of artificial intelligence, the trajectory that it will be developing along over the next few years, and what governments need to do in order to make sure that that development happens safely. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak later today to discuss the ins and outs of the possibility brought by artificial intelligence and the risks associated with it. He was calling yesterday for a third-party referee, as he put it, to ensure that this technology is developed safely.
Well, the people developing this technology themselves have raised the risk that AI may pose, and it's important to not be alarmist about this. There's debate about this topic. People in the industry themselves don't agree, and we can't be certain. But there is a case to believe that it may pose risks on a scale like pandemics and nuclear war, and that's why, as leaders, we have a responsibility to act, to take the steps to protect people, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Many more millions of dollars being invested in this technology, certainly something that private companies are looking at. They are already developing it at quite rapid speeds, but also governments trying to plunge money into better understanding it and making sure that those investments go towards developing the technology for good and for public benefit. But we're certainly seeing a lot of talk as well about regulation and what needs to be done by governments in order to ensure that this happens safely, whether this needs to be a domestic national effort or a global international effort with some sort of regulatory body like that which regulates nuclear energy. So certainly we are seeing lots of discussions about the way that this is going to go in the future. The UK, for what it's worth, has shied away from any kind of immediate legislation or regulation about AI, but we're seeing the United States moving in that direction, Canada and the European Union, all making sure that they have powers to crack down on technology companies that are developing this technology unsafely.
Meanwhile, Russia has revoked its ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty after President Vladimir Putin signed the bill into law following approval by Russian lawmakers. The move sparks fears in the West that Moscow might be looking to resume nuclear testing. The Kremlin denies that. DD India's Dasha Chernyshova reports from Moscow.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday signed into the law the bill revoking ratification of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. The legislation had previously been approved by the Russian lawmakers. Moscow says de-ratification puts it on equal footing with the United States, which signed but never ratified the 1996 treaty. Russia ratified it in 2000. But the Kremlin reaffirmed that de-ratification does not mean Moscow was preparing to halt nuclear tests. Russian Foreign Ministry also reconfirmed that Moscow would continue to respect the ban and would only resume nuclear testing if the United States resorts to that. So the Kremlin insists the intention is to, quote, bring the de facto situation to a common denominator. Last month, President Putin said that Russia had successfully carried out a test of a new generation of nuclear-powered cruise missile. He also said that Moscow had almost finished to work on the modern types of strategic weapons, and now it was only the matter of bureaucratic procedures to move on to their mass production and to put them on combat duty. Dasha Chernyshova reported in Moscow for DD India.
On to Ukraine now, and one of Ukraine's top generals has said that the war with Russia is entering a static and attritional stage. Moscow has denied such claims. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia was steadily carrying out its special military operation. DD India's Megumi Lim reports from Kiev.
Ukraine's top general Valery Zaluzhny said that there will most likely be no deep and beautiful breakthrough in the war against Russia, saying the fighting has reached a stalemate because of the level of technological development on the battlefield. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, however, denied the conflict had reached a deadlock. He said Russia was steadily carrying out its special military operation, a term used by the Kremlin for the full-scale invasion. General Zaluzhny said that in Avdiivka, east of Ukraine, where fighting has been the fiercest in the counteroffensive, he saw more than 100 Russian machines destroyed within hours of coming within the firing range of Ukrainian troops, and those fleeing were chased by first-person view drones. The same picture, he said, could be seen when Ukrainian troops tried to advance. He described the problem as each side being able to see everything the other side was doing. And in order to break this stalemate, he said there was a need for new technologies. He warned that the stalemate could benefit Moscow as it would give them time to rebuild their military power, and a long, drawn-out attritional trench war could really hurt Ukraine. Zaluzhny said he has enough soldiers for now, but the longer the war goes on, the harder it will be to sustain. Megumi Lim in Kiev reporting for DD India.
Well, that's it from me here in Washington. Tanvi, back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Nick. Nick Harper joining us all the way from Washington, D.C. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on the show. Election Commission of Pakistan finally announces dates for general elections to be held in the country next year. Storm Kiran causes 1 fatality and power outages for 1.2 million French households. All that on the other side.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global and I am Tanvi Taneja. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman laid the foundation stone for 10,000 houses under the 4th phase of the Indian housing project in Sri Lanka. The Indian Finance Minister shared her heartfelt admiration of the indomitable spirit exhibited by the Indian origin Tamil community in the face of adversity over the last 200 years. Thondaman Vocational Training Centre, which was upgraded under the Indian Assistance Programme, was dedicated to the people. Apart from this, school supplies for 10,000 school children in the plantation areas was also handed over. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Italian Defence Minister Guido Crosetto today. The agenda focused on taking forward India's renewed defence and security partnership. Dr. Jaishankar appreciated his assessments and valued his suggestions for the defence industry cooperation. On to Pakistan now. General elections in Pakistan will be held on February the 11th next year. The country's poll body informed the Supreme Court on Thursday, putting an end to months-long uncertainty. The Election Commission of Pakistan's council said that the process of drawing constituencies would be completed by January 29th, paving the way for polls. A three-judge bench comprising Chief Justice of Pakistan took up the pleas moved by the Supreme Court Bar Association, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party and others. And next we take a look at other stories making news around the world. In France, one person was killed in Storm Ciarán. Over 1.2 million French households faced power outages. Strong winds also caused minor injuries and road closures in Brittany. Britain's King Charles and Queen Camilla witnessed Navy drills during their state visit to Kenya as the Navy soldiers performed impressive mock drills on the beach. The royal couple are on a 4-day visit to the East African country, where the King said that he would attempt to understand the impact of colonial-era atrocities at the hands of British on Kenyans. Australian police arrested a 49-year-old woman for her alleged involvement in the deaths of 3 elderly people who consumed poisonous mushrooms at a meal she hosted in August. Victoria State Police said that they searched the woman's house with the help of technology detector dogs. Taiwan claimed that 20 Chinese aircrafts breached the median line of the Taiwan Strait. In response, Taiwan activated aircraft, ships and missile systems in accordance with the established procedures for addressing such Chinese military incursions. As per a new report by the Stockholm-based International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, the foundations of democracy are collapsing around the world. In its annual report, IDEA said that 2022 was the 6th consecutive year in which countries with net declines exceeded those with net advances, the longest consecutive fall since its records began in 1975. According to the report, half of the countries are experiencing democratic declines, ranging from tainted elections to restricted rights, such as that of freedom of assembly and expression. Indian film actor and global icon Shah Rukh Khan, often lovingly referred to as King Khan, celebrates his 58th birthday today. DD India wishes the Badshah of Bollywood a very happy birthday today.
चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 चल छैया 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 धूप से निकल के छाँव से फिसल के हम मिले जहाँ पर लम्हा थम गया पास आए.
So that's it in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram at DD India Live. We will be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.